Ladies and gentlemen, it's the American Dream Dusty Rhodes here. We're going to talk about Star Wars, not Luke Skywalker. I'm one of American Dream Dusty Rhodes' favorites of all time. We're going to talk about that Mando and Grogu. That's right, Mando and his little green friend, that silver tongue here, going to tell you how it is. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Raju. Dusty Rhodes is one of my favorite wrestlers. We're going to talk about the Mandalorian and Grogu. This poll recently by a very well-known movie site, and they're very credible with their polls, had the Mandalorian and Grogu polling to be the lowest grossing Disney Star Wars movie ever, and probably the lowest grossing Star Wars movie ever. And when it came to fans' picks, what they were excited for the summer, as far as movies go, the Mandalorian and Grogu didn't even make the top 10. So people are saying it's going to flop, it's going to bomb. I want to break it down to people, and it's probably not going to bomb. Everyone's going to use their narrative because you have these really stupid sides of the fan base. It's funny when people say, well, Star Wars fans are toxic. Man, that goes both ways. Star Wars fans are toxic because you have, and I say this all the time, you have your fan base that screams Star Wars is dead. It's not dead. You know, it's ailing. We won't lie. We can't deny that it's not in a good state, but it's not dead. Star Wars is that. It's like a sports team, a very popular sports team that's had a very few losing seasons over the past few years. But once they get a winning season, or they win like maybe 3 or 4 games in a row, people will be back on board, right? It just has to be consistent. So Star Wars as a brand isn't dead because you still have people that want to see it to succeed. I want to see it succeed. I love Star Wars. I'm just not a fan of anything. I shouldn't say anything. I'm not a fan of the people in charge. Did not like Kathleen Kennedy. Hated the sequels. Hated the direction most projects went. Hated most of the things they did besides like maybe 2 or 3. Maybe a little bit more than that, counting the animation. But I don't think the right people are in charge. And I think it's safe to say that the brand is watered down. Because then you have this other side of the fan base, the I love everything crowd, that just plugs their ears and la 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 la, everything's fine, Star Wars is fine, it's the best ever. And they act like every single project that comes out is the greatest Star Wars thing ever, and it's just succeeding, and it's because of the haters and the racists and the misogynists, blah, blah, blah. That crowd is by far the most fucking annoying crowd ever. Because both sides remind me of our current political administration, where they lie, deflect, and deny. And current Lucasfilm reminds me of that, because they act like, well, it's not, our projects are fine, everything's great, it's the fans, it's a small part of the fan base that is very vocal that prevents it from this, that, and the other. No, I'm sorry. Your general audience doesn't care about your projects anymore. That is a given. They don't care about the sequel characters. The sequel characters have not resonated in the pop culture zeitgeist like the original characters. And it's so funny, I see these fucking nerds online trying to have this revisionist history and shit all over the original trilogy, as if that wasn't the main thing holding up the brand for 40 years. Because, you know, the prequels, people want to act like the prequels are just beloved. They're only beloved by the people that grew up with them, right? Most people that grew up in the 80s, early 90s, that were already semi-adults, teenagers, they saw those movies and they're like, man, this shit ain't good. Now, granted, you can enjoy things. This isn't saying you can't enjoy things, but don't sit here and say it's the best thing ever, it's classic cinema, it's peak, whatever dumb shit you want to say. Some things are good and some things are bad. And most of the stuff that's come out recently, and the prequels, guys, I don't give a shit. I know people are like, this guy commented on my thing, the prequels were great. No, they're not great movies. Okay, let's stop. Let's stop. They're not great movies. They're pretty bad. They are very enjoyable, and they have a really good through-line story with shitty execution. But this weird, like, revisionist history is just wild. And I saw some dumbass post something the other day about how the OT characters are horrible and the sequel characters are so unique and they were just, flogged in the streets. It's like, what movies were y'all watching? Y'all really cope very hard and make up imaginary shit. Like I said, y'all, like the Lucasfilm and the current crazy sides of the fan base, both sides, they remind me of our current political administration. You lie, you deny, you deflect. And it's really ridiculous. So let's not act like the Star Wars brand is booming and that it's awesome, right? Because the marketing for Mando has been very, very bad. People didn't like that Super Bowl trailer. The trailer views didn't get a lot of views. People thought it was very lackluster. And you have people like, oh, it's going to be fun. It looks fun. It's I think it's going to be great. I'm excited for it. It looks fun. It's because you're a Star Wars fan, and you're the type of Star Wars fan that eats up everything they do. I know Star Wars fans that are way more positive than I am, and they aren't interested in this movie. And that's the problem. Now, is this movie going to bomb? No, I don't think it's going to bomb. It may be the lowest grossing Star Wars movie ever, but it's also the cheapest Star Wars movie ever made. They're thinking it was around maybe $166.4 million. That's the budget. That's lower than, I think Solo had a $300 million budget. That's lower than Solo. So even if it made less money than Solo, with marketing, and it had, I believe it's a $21.75 million tax credit from California. So that helps it right there. And then all it really is a season 4. They act like it's not, but it's just season 4 wrapped up into a movie. So here's the pros with this, right? The budget is low. I think they need maybe $350 to $4 million to kind of break even, with marketing costs and stuff like that in the movie cut. I could see that happening. Now, they're saying it's only going to gross like $70 million opening weekend. That's probably domestic. You got to think international. I'm pretty sure Mando and Grogu will still do well international. And you have people screaming. People are going to use it for their narrative and say Star Wars is dead. Star Wars isn't dead, guys. We may not like a lot of the things that come out, and you may hate all of the things Star Wars puts out. And you can tell, like, I like Maul, right? But you see people really hard out there trying to act like Maul, saying negative things about the Maul Shadow Lord series. It's a good series, There's nothing really bad to talk about it. You can nitpick, sure. But you have people acting like it's this terrible show. Or they're saying, well, no one cares about it. No one's talking about it. Star Wars is dead. No, guys, it's not dead. And if something was good and you liked the brand, you would celebrate that it's good. You had people trying to shit all over Andor, and it's just silly. Stuff like that's silly to me because you're not really a fan of Star Wars. You just want to see it fail. And I get it. I understand. I don't like the people involved too, but if you're going to scream woke and all that stuff, you're an idiot. And it's the same way, again, with the people that act like every Star Wars product is just hitting a home run, when that hasn't been the case. The past 10 years have been a really big letdown. The sequels, regardless if you liked them or not, after the fact that they're all said and done, the residing factor now is like they've kind of soured on those movies. They don't get a lot of praise. They don't get a lot of love. People aren't talking about those movies. No one's clamoring for a new Rey movie besides like the weird Reylos and people like that. Like that just, again, have that revisionist history like I was saying earlier. But this movie, I think it's going to do well internationally. I think it's going to make maybe it will make that $70 million domestically, but I think overall that first weekend it'll probably make $100 million, and then I think by the time it's all said and done, it'll probably make its $300 or $400 million, and it'll break even. Now, is that a good thing? No, that's not a good thing. It's not going to flop. It's not going to lose money, but I don't think people are going to be very invested in it. I think if it's decent enough and it has good word of mouth and you can get families attached to it, you'll make money off of it. Are you going to make $1 billion off this? No. You might make $500 million, right? and they'll make a profit. But I don't think you're going to make like $1 billion. And there's too much stuff coming out around it that people are more interested in, right? So people are they're not interested in Star Wars anymore. And that's Lucasfilm's fault. Lucasfilm and Disney. You can't blame anybody but them. You got to stop crying wolf and saying that it's the racist, it's the haters, it's the grifters. That's a very small audience compared to everyone that's not watching it or supporting it or going out to the theaters. That's a very small audience. Your general audience just isn't interested in Star Wars anymore because the brand has been damaged. It's been watered down. However, like I was saying, this movie has such a low budget, and I think internationally, globally, I think it's going to do fine. I don't think it's going to bomb. Like I said, it might break even, but I don't think it's going to bomb. I think Mando and Grogu, they're really putting a lot of weight on Grogu's shoulders. They think that's what's going to bring people out. I think it might be too little too late. Season 3, I said this right when Season 3 started, or as like in the middle of Season 3, I said, this is not a good season. This has nothing to do with Mandalorian. And my own friends would sit there and say, oh yeah, but it's the Mandalorian. It can be about anybody. No, the fuck it isn't about any Mandalorian. Stop that quote bullshit. Stop that bullshit. Stop it. What's his face? The director, one of the directors for the season, he had said that, same thing. No, all the marketing in the first 2 seasons, Mandalorian, was about Mandalorian. It was about Din Djarin. They don't call him Mando for nothing. And this movie isn't called The Mandalorian and Grogu for nothing. That was just people just trying to bullshit, make excuses, and cover their ass for a shitty season. And now that it's all said and done, people are going back saying, yeah, that wasn't a good season, right? It lost viewers. It gained viewers for the season finale because people thought he was going to die, and he didn't. It was a lackluster season. It seemed like a hodgepodge mess put together, like patched together. And now this just seems like a season 4. So I think a lot of people are probably going to not go, and they're going to watch it when it comes out streaming, because that's what it looks like. It looks like a streaming movie. It doesn't look like a big blockbuster movie. And here's the cons. So whereas I don't think it's going to bomb, I don't think it's going to flop, I think it'll at least break even. And they still have the chance to make a lot of money if you can get families going and they're having repeat viewings. And if it's really good, you'll have diehards. I would go see it more than once if it's really good. I don't think it's going to be really good. I think it's just going to be fine. I think it's going to be season 4 as a whole movie. Here's the thing, though, too. Here's the cons. You might not have people interested in it, like not only here, but also globally and internationally. If that's the case, you are in trouble. If most people think that, I can watch it on streaming, and they view it as a streaming movie, you're in trouble. A lot of people don't even know what's coming out. I've talked to people and asked them, they're like, oh, when's that come out? They have no idea when it's even coming out. Or they're like, wait, a new Star Wars movie? They have no idea that it's even coming out. And the brand damage. The brand damage hurts. Star Wars, when you used to think Star Wars, even after the prequels, yeah, sure, like, in the 80s, they had some shitty straight to VHS tape movies, but they were never made into a big deal, right? When streaming happened, all the movies and cartoons and shows that were put on streaming, those were made into a big deal. So you kind of oversaturated yourself, and Star Wars oversaturated itself because it used to be this epic brand. When you thought Star Wars, you thought spectacle, you thought event. You don't think that anymore because they put out so much stuff, and they put out so much stuff that was bad. And I'm sorry, guys, you may like it, you may love Obi-Wan, but it wasn't a good show. The general consensus of the sequels, of Obi-Wan, of The Acolyte, even Ahsoka, which I enjoyed most of that, the general consensus with your normies, your general audience, is that stuff wasn't good. And it's not just the haters and the racists and all that other dumb shit. It's not just that. You guys got to stop crying wolf, and you have to look at the brand, and there's brand damage there. Because the people involved had no idea what they were doing and what they trying to accomplish. And they tried to make it a brand that it wasn't. I say that these people tried to make it a girl brand, and they did, right? They did. You put a lot of people in charge that were really with feminist views, and that does hurt because you're nobody wants to get preached at, and you're doing a lot of agenda pushing and stuff like that, and that hurts your fan base because you kind of turned your back. They turned their back on the fan base that was already supporting it, and a lot of those people got mad. And there's still people like me that that want to see it succeed. But then you have a lot of people that just aren't interested anymore. They've tried to watch the shows, and that showed that people weren't watching them. There was a drop off all the time. People aren't tuning in to the animated shows. Mall's doing well, but people just aren't tuning into it. No one's really talking about it besides the core fans, right? Just people in the Star Wars circles are talking about it. That never used to be a thing. Star Wars was always the it brand, and it's fallen far. So I don't think, there's a chance that Mando and Grogu does not do well. And if it breaks even, is that a good thing? No, I don't think it is a good thing for Star Wars. If it only makes just like maybe $100 million in profit, now $100 million to any of us, that's amazing. But to a movie studio, that's not that great. You're not really making, if you're only making so much, like a little bit of profit, that's not great. And then that's going to jeopardize all the things like Filoni's movie, like the big Thrawn movie that he wanted to do. That right there is not good for the Star Wars brand. The franchise used to be an epic spectacle and event, and it's no longer that because it's been so watered down. And then you throw something else out that continues to kind of look and it's not epic. Like, this movie does not feel like an epic movie, and you have people trying to cover for it, like, oh, it's fine, it just feels like a fun movie. Guys, Star Wars is not just a fun little movie. It's an epic, right? When each trilogy came out, it was a big, huge deal. And then it stopped. It kind of stopped with Solo. People really weren't into it after The Last Jedi. That did a lot of damage. The Mandalorian and Grogu seasons 1 and 2 really brought the fans back, and then the Book of Boba Fett was ass, and then Mando season 3 was ass, and then you lost a lot of people with a lot of the things that came out after that, and you may not have them back. I think you can get them back because people want to see. There is a group of people, a large chunk of people that just want to see it succeed, but I really think this isn't going to do well. I think it's going to do well enough, but I don't think it's going to be the blockbuster they want it to be. And I think it'll keep them coasting until Starfighter. Starfighter, I think they're going to make a big deal out of. You have a really stellar cast, and that usually doesn't happen. You don't usually... Star Wars is the star itself, the brand, the franchise, the name. You don't usually need big names, but now they're kind of trying to do that, have these big names, because the brand isn't that strong anymore. And it's just not, guys. It's just not. You can sit there and tell yourself all day that it's the best thing ever. Maybe to you. Maybe you still enjoy it on that level. But the proof is there. People do not. And I know diehard Star Wars fans that aren't even excited for this. I think Starfighter will do well, especially because they're going to be coming off of the heels of Project Hail Mary. And so Gosling's going to be like in the forefront. That you need to push him. Now, if you barely have him in the movie, that'll be bad. But I think it'll do well. If you make it its own thing, you're not going to have any legacy characters in there. It doesn't have any major ties to the sequels. I think you'll be fine. Because that's something Mandalorian and Grogu did. At the time, it was just 5 years after Return of the Jedi, but it really didn't have anything to do with that, besides the Empire, pockets of the Empire still trying to gain power. And it had nothing to do with the sequels, so people were like, sweet, everybody was on board. And then you had Grogu, which people fell in love with. I think you need something that isn't going to divide people, and Starfighter, if you have no major ties to the sequels and it is its own thing, I think you'll do fine. And I think Mandalorian and Grogu will do well enough to where it will allow Disney to coast until they can really start heavily pushing that. And I think you'll see what Mando comes out in May. I think June, July, you'll see a heavy push for Starfighter. And then, that'll be the time when Mando comes out on streaming. Will be around that time. Or maybe in August. But if it doesn't do well at the theater, they're going to put it on streaming as soon as they can so they can get some of that money back. But I honestly, I think you'll start to see Starfighter take the forefront literally months after Mando, because judging by the marketing, the lack of advertising, I don't think Disney Lucasfilm really has faith in this movie. They either don't care about this movie, or it's such a low budget that they know it will do well enough to where they're not going to lose money on it. And that's what I think is going to happen. I think the movie is, I don't think it's going to be great by any means. I think it will be fun. I think it could be very cool. I don't think it's going to suck. And I think it'll do fine. It'll do fine. It'll either break even or it'll make a small profit. I don't think the Star Wars brand is dead. You have people on one side screaming that it is dead, and it's definitely not thriving, because you have people on the other side trying to convince you you're wrong because you don't like Star Wars, and everyone's wrong because they don't like Star Wars. And if you don't like the Star Wars project, you're racist, sexist, bigot, whatever. And that shit, that whole narrative is so fucking tired and exhausting. It's like, you are not going to bully people into liking something. If it's good, people will like it. It's like, shut the fuck up and let people come back to your product. But and the same thing, you're not going to bully people into not liking something. And if it's good, you're not going to sit there and convince them by saying it's woke and all this other dumb shit that it's not. That coin needs to be thrown away with both sides of the fan base. Some of the worst shit ever. But yeah, Mando and Grogu, I don't think it's going to be this blockbuster, which I feel like every Star Wars movie should be, because the brand used to be the It brand. It's no longer the It brand. It's just like a random ass brand, and it's just kind of floating in the ether waiting for a big hit. And Starfighter needs to be a big hit, because if this isn't big and Starfighter's kind of meh, you need to be selling Star Wars to somebody else. I already think I should have fired everybody, because you have the same people in charge. I already talked about that in a previous video. Nothing's really going to be changing. I don't see anything being anything different. But what do you guys think? I mean, I don't think Mando and Grogu is going to bomb. I think it's going to do fine. I don't think it's going to break numbers or be like this big blockbuster. It has the potential to be that, but with international sales, and if a movie is good and you got good word of mouth, people will show up. But I don't think it's I don't think it's going to be like the blockbuster that Star Wars should be. But what do you guys think? Do you even care? Do you even care about this movie? Are you going to go see this movie? Do you think it's going to be good? What do you think? You think it's going to bomb? Do you think it's going to flop? Or do you think it's going to make a little money and it'll be good enough to get people to go want to see it? I am Rohit Raju, Daddy. We was talking about Star Wars, not Luke Skywalker. Like I said, it's my favorite, Daddy. Silver Tongue over here. Rohit Raju's the man, Daddy. You know he is. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Sound off in the comments. Take care, if you will.